Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
While every other channel is fighting for your customers' attention, podcasts are where they've already given it. No one accidentally listens to a podcast for 45 minutes. They choose to be here. They trust the voice in their ears, and when that voice talks about your brand, it doesn't sound like advertising. It sounds like a recommendation from a friend. Acast gives you that trust at scale. Digital precision, host-read authenticity, and performance data that proves it worked. Don't fight for attention. Buy it with Acast. Learn more by visiting acast.com/advertise.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them. That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to TechMagic. I am your host, Cathy Hackl. This is the podcast where we talk about gaming, technology, innovation, spatial computing, AI, you name it. We're talking about a lot of different things happening in the tech space. And as always, I am joined by my amazing co-host, Lee Kebler. Lee, what's up?
Hey, how are you? I didn't think you were going to be in town today. You said last week you were going to be gone, and I wasn't really sure. I was just like, I guess I'm doing this, but I'll just talk to the void for a little while or something. And then you showed up, which is great.
Well, this might be my AI. Do you know it's really me?
Ooh, I don't like that question.
Well, my AI is not wearing makeup today, so... So I don't think my AI would show up without makeup. But anyway, she would show up all glammed up for sure. No, I didn't go to Abu Dhabi. I had some family things come up. So sadly, I didn't make it to the Culture Summit. But I'm hoping I'll be there next year. Heard great things from folks that were there. I mean, John Legend was there. A whole bunch of folks that I know. It seemed really interesting. So I'm hoping to make it next year.
And you got South by Southwest coming up too.
Oh,
right?
yeah. So I'm actually heading over to California in a few days. For a good friend's wedding. He's from the industry. And a lot of us in the XR industry are going to be at that wedding. And then we're all going to go to South by right after. So we're all, I think we should have just rented, done like a charter because we're all literally almost all on the same flight, which is hilarious. But yeah, we're all kind of heading over to South by. At South by, I'm doing a keynote on the XR stage on spatial computing, AI, and the future of wearables. So future of personal tech, all those sorts of things. Very excited about it. It's a whole hour. Well, 45 minutes, but I'm super excited to be doing it. It's going to be a really good talk. And just thrilled. I think it's such a good year to be there from an XR perspective. The XR track is bigger. I already, I'm only there for a couple of days. So I already have tons of meetings. I'm also leaving time for serendipity because you always run into random people walking around.
Yeah.
But yeah, scheduled a few dinners that I've been invited to. Greg Kahn, who's been on the podcast before, he has AI Trailblazers. I'm doing that dinner with them. So yeah, excited about South by, excited to see a lot of things there. It's just a fun event. And I went to school in Austin. So for me, it's always fun to go back.
Yeah.
So
it's great when you can kind of get a little bit of a reunion tour or something.
Well, and talking about college, I turned 21 in college, and this is episode 21. Episode 21 at TechMagic. TechMagic can go to the bars now.
We can drink now. Yeah.
We can drink. Yeah. Cheers to that, Lee. Cheers to that. We're 21 now. I still can't believe we're 21 episodes in. I'm so excited.
Yes. This has been a fantastic run, and it doesn't seem to be stopping. It's been a blast every single episode. At least I hope I've gotten really good feedback. And I love getting that feedback. So most of it comes through LinkedIn or people that I've not met who have reached out and have just been like, this is a fun podcast. And they like the balance, the dynamic, because I think I'm a little too negative.
The good cop, bad cop situation that we've got going. I love it.
You say all the things that we're thinking, but then she says all the nice things we want to be true.
That's the diplomat in me. My dad was an ambassador, so I grew up very diplomatically.
My dad was a middle school teacher, and he was a shop teacher, so he just said it like it was. Otherwise, his kids would lose a finger.
So it's a good balance. So a few things. I'll share a few things from the weekend. I always share stories from the kids. Took my oldest kids to see Dune 2. That was super fun.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
I went to the movies yesterday, but I haven't seen that one yet.
It was actually, I walked out like that was a movie. That was
Really?
a lot in one movie.
It's hard for a sequel to keep up too. That's
because
cool.
I felt like the first Dune movie, it was kind of slow, and then some stuff happened, but then it was not a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot in the desert. At least not so much in the desert had happened. This one's more in the desert, super fun. My kids enjoyed it. There were a couple scenes that I was like, okay, that probably wasn't good for my kids. But they're almost 13. So one of them is 13, the other's 12. So I'm like, it's interesting parenting. But yeah, it was. I mean, they really enjoyed it. They were like, wow, Mom, this was so good. And my son was like, I can't. He hasn't read the books. So he's like, I can't wait to read the books. So he's really.
It's always a good motivator to see.
Yeah, because he's reading Lord of the Rings right now. So my kids they read a lot. They're voracious readers. So now he's like, I need to finish Lord of the Rings to get on Dune. I'm like, okay.
I went and saw American Fiction yesterday.
Such a good movie.
So good.
Oof.
Crazy good film.
Crazy good.
Hilarious. I laughed at the most inappropriate times in that theater.
Yes.
I loved that movie.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. I don't even want to say anything about the movie. Just go
see it or rent it. It's on Apple TV as well because I watched it when I was in Barcelona.
You can while it's in theaters, you can get it on Amazon because I didn't put two and two together. But since Amazon, I guess, owns MGM, they just have it in theaters, or you can. Now, I'm going to say this: I actually think it's a movie you should watch in theaters. Because of the subject matter and the comedy and the humor, I think that it's important to see what a group of people laugh at, and when the jokes hit.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting because it's a very funny film.
Because I could imagine people holding back laughter at points.
Yes.
I was like, that might not be a good part for me to laugh about this.
Yeah, it was a very interesting film to watch the I don't know, sociology of it all come together.
Well, the acting was fantastic too.
So
I have to say,
good.
Such a good movie. I mean, I watched it alone because I was jet lagged, and I was like, okay, I need to watch something interesting. So I mean, I was laughing by myself in Barcelona, but very, very good movie.
And I think anyone who writes, gets a little bit more out of it. But man, it was so good.
It was good, especially you with a fiction book. I could totally see that.
Oh, yeah. There's a whole scene in there where I'm like, I've been there. I have legitimately done that.
Oh, no. I love the part where they're talking about the title of the book and they change it. Yes. Oh, my gosh. I was just cracking up. I was like, especially, I think when you name your book, even if the names of my book are business books, right? So it's always not super sexy or exciting.
Sure.
But yeah, I was just thinking about that. The naming of the book is such a process, and they make so much fun of it there. It's hilarious.
It's a process. The whole publishing, idea is a process. And I'll say, I think, as someone who's a writer, yourself as a writer, and watching this film, never touch into the subject of AI generated blah 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 in literature is really valuable. It's not even a subject matter. It's just no, people are going to continue to write scripts and write entertainment because that's what humans do is they create art. And no machine is going to make that stop because that just seems to be a constant drag of a conversation that I keep hearing over the last 2 weeks. And I'm honestly getting tired of it. Yeah.
I know we're going to get into that in a little bit, but I wanted to mention something that really struck me this weekend. So when I took them to see the Dune movie, Dune 2, one of the ads at the theater we were at was for the Army. And it didn't say at the beginning it was for the Army. It just had people doing things and talking about and changing your life and all this stuff. My son turns over to me and says, "Mom, is that an ad for Microsoft Copilot?"
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "I don't think so, honey. I think it's an ad for the Army." And it was so important, like such a moment, because I'm like, he saw the Microsoft Copilot ad during the Super Bowl, which is like, I can do or I can achieve, and the fact that in his mind he thought this was a Microsoft Copilot ad instead of an Army one, I was like, damn, that's deep. Like I was sitting
there's
with
a layer
that for
there.
a couple of days. I was like, that is intense. That's what he saw, right? Is like AI gives me the superpowers to do X, and the Army ad is like, we can change the world, we can save, all this. Like, it was a really interesting juxtaposition. I don't know, good and bad. I had good feelings about it and a little weirded by it too.
And it kind of gives you a little bit of a shiver.
Yeah, I'm like, why Copilot? I'm like, whoa, it was interesting, but that was his reaction. He said, "Mom, is that an ad for Copilot?" I was like, "No, I think it's an ad for the armed forces."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's deep. I don't know. I didn't see the ad.
Yeah, if you see the Copilot ad, like the one they had during the Super Bowl.
Sure.
If you see it, and then if that's the only type of ad you've seen and you see the Army ones, right? Like, I understand why he made that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really interesting because, like, I would have never said this is a Microsoft Copilot ad. I knew it was an armed forces thing, or like, let's change the world, or we make you a better man, or like whatever it is, like, so yeah, it was really, really interesting. We'll include links to the two ads in the comments so people can kind of just judge. But it was very telling me. I was like, wow, this truly is, my kids' generation is truly a generation that is growing up with AI being ubiquitous. Like,
sure. Yeah. I mean, and we kind of grew up with the dawn of the internet, right? Like, I technically can barely remember a world without dial-up internet, right?
Yeah.
But I really don't, if I'm being honest. I can't recall much. I don't remember a world without computers, and I barely remember some fleeting childhood memories of not having, I think it was Prodigy dial-up internet in our house or something like that.
Did you have a fax?
No, we didn't. My parents were school teachers, and for whatever reason, teachers had like early access to internet back in those days. So we had internet in the home pretty early. It was very slow dial up. They had a scanner. They were like one of the first people to have a scanner. It was like super high tech back then. And the scanner would allow you to send a fax through the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we didn't have like a fax line or a fax machine or anything like that. But we had that. And that just seemed at the time so futuristic to be able to scan a document and see it on your computer screen. That was just insane.
So we had a fax because my dad was a diplomat, so he had to get fax cables and all that stuff, right? But I had a lot of friends, international friends, from moving all over the world, and one of my best friends was in Germany. So my dad would give me one fax a week to send to my friend, and she could send a fax back. But it was magical. Like, I would write it in pencil, and I would decorate it and all that stuff, all these sorts of stickers and everything, and I would fax it, and like she would reply soon. In fact, it was just magical to me as a young person. Like, I was like, wow, this is so magical. But I'm like, now a fax, it's like, where would I even go to do a fax? Like,
well, you still hit that problem. Like, try to buy a house, and they're like, oh, we need you to fax this information to you, like for your mortgage.
Who has a fax? I mean, you can do it on your computer, right? But like a fax, I'm like, I don't know. People that don't understand what a fax is, was a machine. I mean, it connected through, that was just the telephone line, I'm guessing, right? And it would send, I don't know, it would send, like, it would scan. I remember it would scan the letter I would write, and then she would get the exact same letter, but printed out in fax paper, with no colors. So I don't know. It seemed magical at the time, but yeah, fax machine was an important part of my childhood.
Now this is just like the only piece of like fax trivia that I know, just the fax.
You always know trivia, so
Abraham Lincoln could have technically sent a fax to a Japanese samurai.
How? Wait, no. Are you kidding me? No, you're kidding with me.
No.
No, come on.
The fax was invented like in the late, let me look it up, in 1843. Samurais stopped existing in 1867, and Lincoln died in 1865. So technically speaking, Abraham Lincoln could have sent a fax to a samurai.
Oh gosh, a technicality there. Technically, could have. Yeah, I was like, no, that didn't happen. That sounds like an
it didn't
anime
happen,
story.
but he could have. He could have.
Someone should do an anime about that. Like, yeah,
That I would watch that.
I would watch that. Yeah, Crunchyroll. There we go. Anyway, let's get into it. I think one of the big things we want to talk about today, where everyone's trying to make sense of this. And I got interviewed last week by the Observer on why are so many layoffs happening in gaming. Tech in general as a sector, but this specifically was about gaming. It was right after the news that Sony was laying off a percentage of their workforce, closing down their London studio, which I knew a couple people that worked there. And it was the day. The news. The interview with me on the Observer, which we'll include a link to, came out that same day as news that EA was doing layoffs as well. I don't feel like it's stopping. I continue to see more news on gaming layoffs. Why, in your perspective, and I'll share mine, but why, in your perspective, do you think this is happening?
Well, okay, I think part of it is I think layoffs are always happening, especially in the tech sector. Like, it's always been that way. I think it's getting way more press because I'd have to go back and like find it, but I saw an article recently that was like 80 people are getting laid off from blah, blah, blah tech, like game company. I'm just like 80. We're talking about, I mean, I guess that's a lot of people if the company's like 100, but when you start looking at, some of these really large thousands and thousands and thousands of people, at a studio, I guess it I don't know, that just doesn't hit like the 900 that Sony laid off or like 1,300 coming from another company or whatever. And it's not happening across the board everywhere, right? Nintendo has not announced any layoffs. In fact, the CEO said, if we do hit a down part, I'm just not going to take a paycheck because that's going to demoralize my team and I need them making good content and good games. I do think to an extent that's why Nintendo is special. Because
but there could be layoffs.
There could be.
I mean, there's no Switch coming, so I don't know.
Well, there is a Switch coming 2025,
not right now.
But not right now. Right, not right now. And who knows? They might miss that date as well. My personal suspicion was we were supposed to have one years ago, and that's when the OLED came out because we were just in the middle of like this COVID can't find supply chain issues, right? But here's the difference. Nintendo owns Nintendo games. They own everything from Mario to Metroid to Legends of Zelda, like all of these franchises they own.
Yeah.
Sony, they have exclusive titles, and I think they own probably a couple of like interesting IPs. But by and large, they're mostly licensed brands, even if they're Sony produced video games, right? Like they don't have
Spider-Man, sorry.
Spider-Man, like Spider-Man or
because that's what Insomniac Games had been working on. The Spider-Man games.
Same thing with like Last of Us and things like that.
Yeah.
There's all of these games that are like unique to the platform, to the Sony PlayStation, but they don't have the IP stranglehold that Nintendo has with Donkey Kong and everything else in between. And so one of the things that Nintendo is able to do, even with look, the Nintendo Switch came out in 2017 and it was underpowered when it launched. We all saw that. But so did the Game Boy. When the Game Boy came out in 1989, it was not the most technologically advanced, handheld on the planet. But it didn't drain your batteries like the Sega Game Gear did. And, it had Tetris, which was just infinitely a better mobile game at the time. So when you look at like what they're doing with the Nintendo Switch right now, as they've re-released like 3 archived games in the last 2 months. And I've bought all 3 of them because I grew up playing those games. Because I grew up playing them and they're great. They're games
Nintendo reigns supreme in my house. I'll tell you that. My son didn't want a PlayStation 5.
And I think that's the other problem is PlayStation with Sony, because of maybe supply chain or maybe they were trying to game the market. They tried to get, whatever it was. Yeah. You couldn't get a PlayStation 5 until people just gave up. And so I don't know that many people. It's a console that is now reaching the end of its life cycle. And I actually don't know that many people who have one.
There you go.
And I'm in the gaming space. So like, I kind of get it. And you have to have that if you're going to have the PlayStation VR, like their new iteration of their VR stuff. So there's just a lot of misses that seem to be happening.
So I think it's part of that. I also think it's a few things that I shared with this reporter. I said, well, also a lot of these studios that are laying off people are canceling titles that haven't even come out because maybe people have, sometimes it takes years, as you and I have discussed in the podcast, for one of these AAA games to happen. And, it might not even be a hit. So things related to that, the amount of people required to do some of these games, the length of time required to do some of these games. I think also, mobile gaming versus console gaming. I think that there's also economics there. I know, console gaming is still very, very hot and very active, but there's something to be said for mobile. So, so I definitely mentioned that. I also think when you start to, go ahead.
There's something to be said for PC gaming too.
Oh yeah, PC gaming.
And I think that's an important thing to call out because a lot of these titles can just be played on your PC. And it's hard to, if you're building a computer for like maybe your work or like you're a graphic designer or you're getting into video editing or whatever it is that you want to do, and you build the PC that you need to do that stuff, even if you're in high school, like, and that's a goal for you, well, that becomes your console. And if it doesn't have that exclusive title, money's tight, right? So I think that plays a part into it.
Well, the conversation she and I had also had to do with NVIDIA. And I said, NVIDIA's before graphics cards, graphic cards for gaming used to be one of NVIDIA's main things.
Yeah.
Now it's not. Now it's like, GPUs and everything, but like in AI chips, like their focus has moved from gaming being kind of their main focus. That's what I meant. Like when I first got introduced to NVIDIA, it was because of that. We needed those graphic cards to do, to run the Vive. 1080s and stuff, right? But obviously that has changed. So even that has evolved. So she asked me about that. She said, like, what about like NVIDIA and their business model?
Well, I think the NVIDIA business model, like, it changed, and it definitely took a weird twist when like the cryptocurrency craze kind of like skyrocketed.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
2017, 2018. You just couldn't get a graphics card. And anyone who was like scooping them up, they weren't scooping them up to do gaming or 3D graphics or whatever. So I think that was one of the big lifts, but then everything just kind of like twisted and turned until it morphed into a value for a GPU. The GPU was always like the secondary processor up until about 2015 for most people. Most people would go out and buy a PC and never even update their GPU because they weren't out there playing the most heavily graphic games and there was no VR. But now things are a little different. It's changed and people want to like have multiple screens hooked up to their computer. They want to have their VR headset tethered to it and or whatever, right? So I don't know, like NVIDIA, I think just created a marketplace for the also necessary processor.
That's a good point.
And that's just different.
That's a good point. Yeah. Here's something that she asked me about. She said, what about Twitch? Layoffs at Twitch. And I said, well, this is what I'm seeing at Twitch. It's, there's this there's long form content, there's short form content. You've got, for example, someone like Pokimane, which we've talked about, leaving the platform Twitch, going somewhere else or quitting entirely. A study conducted by TikTok recently stated that TikTok is the #1 platform for finding mobile games. So that, in my perspective, could be eating into Twitch in some ways, right? Stealing some of Twitch's thunder. Thoughts?
I think Twitch kind of has its own issues where you have this whole like weird system that they're trying to put in place with ads, and those advertisements are a little bit too bullish. I think YouTube's making the exact same mistakes where it's just too intrusive and you're quite literally pushing people in the wrong direction. If your ads are so intrusive that they're pushing for people looking up like how to do ad blocks who normally wouldn't do that, you've gone too far. And I think that's going to be this continually growing problem, especially in the streaming space. You also have monetization issues. If the streamers do not feel like the audience they're bringing to your platform, they're being properly paid for or compensated for. That's an issue too, because I mean, like, what in the world would happen? You've explained the hype around Mr. Beast and what all of that means. But what would happen if Mr. Beast left YouTube, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But that's not impossible, right?
It could happen. I mean, MatPat, there's plenty of them that are stepped down. So yeah.
Yeah. So, any of these things can happen. And when you do that, you lose large groups of viewership. And part of it's probably just a lack of management. Like, I just found it very strange that Twitch, owned by Amazon, had this whole goal of just being gaming focused, now owned by a company that's just not gaming focused, right? Like, that's just not part of their history. Maybe it is one day. I know that they bought the Cry engine and they kind of dabbled a little bit, but then they got bored with it or something and walked away from it. So like, there's just not a big cohesive.
That's interesting, because most of the people that I used to know that worked at Amazon Gaming are gone.
Yeah. It's not something that seems to be, I'm not saying it's not on their radar or in their wheelhouse. I'm sure someone's working on it somewhere, but I'm not seeing active news of progress on that topic. The other problem that they have is like, they've got some, how do I put this? They've got some not safe for work problems.
Oh,
right?
yes.
And I don't like, that's a liability. And then you start getting into people's opinions on what censorship means. It's just a hairy mess of a problem to like. I don't really want to unpack that.
I don't know.
But it is part of it, right?
Well,
like,
it is part of it. Yeah, no, I agree. But maybe they should go to AllFans or something. They just open your AllFans page. Do that. What I would say also, I also mentioned something to Heather. I said from the other side, you've got big media companies, the Netflixes of the world, HBO, like all these Max or whatever, right? Whatever they're called. Now kind of starting to give gaming the place it deserves as one of the biggest industries out there and bringing in IP. But with that, you have people leading these companies going into gaming and gaming IP that are not gamers or don't understand gaming culture. And this is Andrew Rosen, who we're going to have on the podcast, ill-suited to be running some of these divisions. The difference here is someone like, I would say, like Mike Verdu, who's been in the gaming space for a long time, including Facebook, and now is at Netflix. So I think there is also
that's not new, right? Like,
but it's concerning because they don't understand it. They don't understand
history repeats itself,
which is sad. We should push for change.
We should, but let's hop in the time machine, okay? Set the flux capacitor to 1976. We're going to go to Sunnyvale, California, and we're going to watch a young Nolan Bushnell sign the rights to Atari over to Warner Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Warner Communications, 1976, buys Atari. They buy all of the intellectual property comes with it. That's Asteroids. That's Yar's Revenge. That's all of it, right?
Yeah.
And subsequently run it right into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It was just that was the beginning of the end for one of the largest video game brands ever in existence. Now, anyone who's under 30 years old is listening to me talk, going Atari. I kind of heard the name before, but like, no, you don't understand.
You don't understand.
Atari was Nintendo. Atari was Xbox. Atari was Sony, all wrapped into one. That company was the video game god. Like,
all my first gaming was Atari. Like, it was all on Atari. Like, we only had Atari at that point.
There was Atari and everything else. And Warner Brothers was like, hey, we can get in on that. Warner Communications bought them and then just like, but what did it do? It gave opportunity. As these companies fail to adapt or understand, it creates opportunity. And that's where we get companies like Activision, right? Activision came out shortly after that acquisition because all of the developers left Atari to start Activision because they weren't being treated properly by Warner Communications. That's the history of it. Y'all can leave and go do your own thing and then own it. And then look at the history of Activision. They've survived long enough to watch themselves become the big massive beast and become, is that what is that like?
And now are laying off people, even though they said they weren't.
If you live long enough to watch yourself become the problem or the enemy or something like that, but they did. And Nintendo was this pretty obscure arcade cabinet manufacturer in Japan that used to sell playing cards. But they saw this opportunity. They tried to release the NES with Atari. Warner Communications botched that deal up. Like, it's all there. So this is not new, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is we've been on this.
But by this point, I wish these companies were really trying to hire the right people to run these things. Like, when it comes to gaming, like,
I don't know if they can.
well, it's a case of old media versus new media, I guess.
I think it's a case of old people versus new people.
That's a good point.
I mean, when you start looking at some of these really large companies and you start looking at who they hire to be leadership, and I'm not talking C-suite, CEO, but to an extent I am.
Yeah.
They hire people that there's like articles written about that have been in it for far too long. They don't hire the youngest, new, fresh minds because they haven't proven themselves. I understand that. They have to answer to shareholders and investors. That, I think, is what's causing a lot of this.
Well, that's what I also said to the Observer. Like, the shareholders are reacting positively to this, so they're going to continue doing layoffs because shareholders are liking it. So I said, sadly, we're going to continue to see more layoffs. I don't see that stopping. So I mentioned that. I also said, and this is where I think we're going to get into a really interesting conversation with what you and I had talked about before we hit record, is that I do feel that there is almost that wait and see attitude of what could generative AI and AI in general do to gaming. Like, I know, like, this is top of mind for both of us.
It is, yeah.
AI, the things we're seeing about AI or being said about AI, the people around us, how they're starting to feel about it, especially our game developer friends. Can you share a little bit? Because I think you and I had a really interesting conversation.
I got a phone call last week, or really someone reached out to me on Discord, one of the people that I work with, young guy in his 20s, and he's like, hey, Lee, can you jump on a call? And he's never asked me anything like this before. Can you jump on a call? I think I'm having an existential crisis, is what he says. And I'm just like, okay, yeah.
And he's not the type of person that I would see doing that. Like, yeah.
No. And so I jump on a call with him and we chat for a little bit. And it was just like, okay, graduated college, focusing in the gaming industry. He wants to do X, Y, and Z in the gaming industry. And now his LinkedIn is just full of AI is going to make everyone lose their job. And the threat, the constant threat of that noise had really eaten into the back of his head and gotten into his psyche. And I cannot blame him for that, because I know better, because I'm old. And I've been on this rodeo before, but I do see it, and I have to admit, it does kind of affect me too, but not in the same way. It makes me angry. I try not to let stupid, trivial things like crap on LinkedIn make me angry, but this has gotten to me to the point where I just want to like rattle some cages. This is what I told him though. I was like, you have to leverage the tools you have for the art that you want to create. And as long as you're creating art, then there's not a computer that's ever going to take that away from you. And I mean that. Like, when I was in college 20 years ago, I wanted to work at a recording studio. Like, I was in the music industry. I wanted to work at a recording studio. And if I didn't do that, I wanted to work at a radio station. Like, those were my career goals. Right. Yeah. And this is right at the beginning of like Pro Tools coming out, where you could record music on a desktop computer. And then once I hit through college, you could record it on a laptop if you had a couple $100. And everybody in the industry was saying the exact same crap that I'm reading on LinkedIn right now, of the music industry's dead and you can't do this. And this, I mean, we're talking, it was like the early 2000s. I'm reading this and I had that moment, but then I was like, wait, this means I don't have to actually like go empty ashtrays and like kiss up to rock stars, you know, to get into the music industry. I can do it with a laptop. I can do it with a couple plugins. And what it did is it blew the doors wide open on the music industry. And sure, there aren't as many recording studios out there anymore, because there doesn't have to be. And that's okay. And then while I did work in radio for a little while, it became very obvious with the invention of a little addition of a small company called Pandora that wasn't going to last very long. But in my career, that still led me to go work with the Black Eyed Peas and help build their recording studio. I still was able to do it because of the stuff that I did that was innovative with the tools that I was giving. I got used to the idea of radio broadcasts, and now I'm doing a podcast with you, which is
in essence audio, which is radio in some ways.
It's the same thing. It's still the same it's the still conversation that I would want to have if I were doing talk radio. And none of that got disrupted. My world didn't get destroyed. My opportunities grew, as opposed to being stripped away, which everyone who was older than me promised was what was going to happen. And they were all wrong, and they're wrong again. It's just nightmarish.
Well, there's a lot of
right
fear
now.
mongering. I think there's a lot of fear mongering.
Yeah.
I think we can't be naive. There will be job replacement. There will be some
Totally.
job replacement like it is with every other technology.
Yeah.
But is it like we're never going to do movies? We're only going to watch movies made from Sora. Like, I'm like, I don't know. Like,
No.
there's always going to be room for the Kia and the Ferrari. That's what I
Right,
think.
right,
You know,
right.
even theater. I think like theater is going to have a comeback.
I
We're gonna
think
wanna
theater will
see.
have a comeback. You know, there's content, there's art. And like, I still have an interest in knowing about my favorite actors, actresses, writers, you know, directors. Like, that still's a thing. I want to see their work. And that has nothing to do with, well, AI could have done that. So what? So what? Who cares? If anyone's telling you they're shutting their stuff down because AI is going to take it away from them, then they don't deserve to have it to begin with. They don't believe in themselves. They don't believe in themselves as artists. They don't believe in the people around them that they're trying to invest in. Those are not people who deserve the platform they currently have. And yes, you know exactly who I'm talking about. And I do not make any apologies for that. Don't be a coward.
Woo! Goodness gracious. Get off the soapbox, Lee. Here's something. No, but it's 100%. In some ways, I definitely agree with you. In some ways, I don't. But I will say, this is another analogy I gave to someone. I said, look, if the idea is that AI is going to replace everything, like the shareholders are going to like it really a lot right now, but eventually there's going to be no money for anyone to buy. If everyone loses their job in a hypothetical future, then no one's going to have any money. And they're like, UBI. I was like, well, yeah, but that's not going to cover your Netflix. You know, that's not going to cover all your subscriptions. Like, there's not going to be any disposable income for people to kind of buy what the things that these companies are creating that the shareholders so want to benefit from.
You think those shareholders are going to give us UBI? Come on. Like,
yeah, no, exactly.
Like,
that was like,
that's a whole other
UBI,
can of worms
like,
we don't have time for.
Yeah, no. It's a great concept, but yes. But I was like, if everyone's out of a job and no one has, any disposable income, then what is the future here? Like,
no,
the shareholders, like, they're going to have a lot of money, but they're going to have to move to their bunkers in Hawaii. Like, I don't know. It was this,
and that's lonely.
Kind of like interesting spiral
that's...
that we went down. And I was like, no, like, they're like, but UBI, I was like, that's not going to pay for your like gaming and your subscriptions. And
did video games break the board game industry? No. So stop it.
Well, you know who wrote a really good op-ed? Jaron Lanier, who, he's like...
I really, really respect that guy.
No, and it's a great op-ed. I think it's New York Times. He talks about how to see AI in a different perspective. I also think Roni Abovitz from Magic Leap, he has been having... I listened to his podcast with Charlie Fink and Ted Chilwett sometimes. XR, This Week in XR. And I've been a host there. I've been a co-host with them a few times. And he's got a really interesting perspective, like on the type of AI he's working on and everything. So yeah, I think that we need that balance. I think it's really easy to get caught up in all the drama from Silicon Valley and these AI companies and the valuations and
all
Elon
of the people
talking about Altman, like suing Altman and OpenAI, and then Costal Ventures getting involved, Vinod Khosla getting involved, and then Andreessen Horowitz. It's like watching the real entrepreneurs of Silicon Valley as opposed to Real Housewives. But it's like this drama. I'm just like, okay, take a step back, Cathy.
All right, you lost me on that. That's hilarious.
It is. It does feel like that. It feels like, it's like, ooh, drama. Like, who's going to throw, some serious shade here on X. But yeah, like, don't get caught up on that. Focus on, for me, it's like, use the tools if they're useful to you.
Yeah.
You don't have to learn to use every single tool. Like, do I need to learn how to do music editing with AI? No, that's not what I do. Right?
No, and it's not going to stop songwriting because will it kill some songwriting? Yeah, it'll kill the bad songwriting.
Yeah.
And will it produce something that's good? Yeah, I'm sure. I'm certain. I guarantee you that it will. But is it going to wreck Taylor Swift's regime? No, of course not. That's hilarious. Like, that's just not, I've listened to a couple of her songs and they're starting to sound kind of familiar, and maybe she's already doing it. I don't know. but her following's not going away, right? Like, there's just a
Swifty's
deeper...
got a Swift. They will continue.
Yeah.
Swifting, so.
It's just such a silly thought. And It might disrupt like storyboard artists, I guess, maybe.
Well, yeah, I think it's going to disrupt makeup artists. Like there's certain things that, yes, I definitely think that there is going to be impact there, right?
Totally.
So I think, like I said, we can't be naive and say there's no job replacement, though there will be. But I think that there's a balance there. So don't get caught up in all the real entrepreneurs of Silicon Valley drama. Please.
Yeah, don't sell your dreams out yet. Like there's still something to go
That's
after.
heartbreaking when you told me about that. I was like, because I know the young man, and I'm like, man, the fact that
but you
that
can
person's
see where it comes from.
Yeah,
like,
the level of anxiety. I'm like, and I understand why someone would question themselves. I mean,
sure,
I would be lying if I said I haven't at one point said, well, what does this mean for the future of whatever, right? Of me doing X, Y, or Z. So, and
what I said was, stop asking what it means for you, like as it's affecting you, and start asking, wait, what does this mean I can do now? And that's such a different parallel to what I've been seeing anyone say.
Yeah.
That's...
I will tell you, there's a really good episode in the AIQ podcast that we did, the first one with Jenny Nicholson, and she talks about, like, this truly is about superpowers. Like, she's never felt more powerful. And I thought it was a really interesting, different side of the paradigm of like, these are powerful tools. If you're using them and you learn how to use them specifically for what you love to do, they can be very powerful. So, okay, I think we should go on break. And then when we get back, I'll tell you all about my, my experience meeting Kara Swisher. So we'll go back, we'll go to break, and then we'll come back.
This message is brought to you by Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. And this is more than an ad. This is an invitation to be part of the stories the world can't stop watching, to connect with moments that dominate the conversation, to participate in culture, not just advertise around it. With the most sought-after IP, passionate audiences, and an advanced AI-powered foundation, WBD advertising transforms attention into influence and impressions into outcomes. This is innovation. This is impact. This is opportunity. This is Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. Visit advertising.wbd.com to learn more.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them? That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, Yetis, this is Nick and Jack from the Best One Yet podcast. Now, the last company we worked at, they used Paylocity and everything just worked. It wasn't until launching our own media business, this show, that we realized how rare that is.
Because Paylocity is one delicious burrito of operational needs. They roll up HR, finance, and IT seamlessly into one delicious bite.
When everything wraps together like that all at once, your workforce, your tech stack, your business, you don't need more tools. You don't even need cilantro.
You need one solution.
And that is why Paylocity built a single platform to connect HR, finance, and IT with AI-driven insights and automated workflows that simplify the complex and power what's next.
Or as we call it, a delicious operational burrito.
Yes, we do. Experience a one place for all your HCM needs, besties.
So start now at Paylocity.com/one.
Paylocity.com/ONE.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
All right, Lee. So let me tell you about something fun that I did last week that I didn't include at the beginning, but I think it's relevant to our listeners. Because I think we have certain listeners that listen to this also listen to the Pivot podcast with Kara Swisher and Professor Galloway for Vox. And Kara Swisher's new book, Burn Book, A Tech Love Story, came out last week. It's been reviewed everywhere. Like you've probably seen it. Like it's been everywhere. Kara's been everywhere. She's been on The View. She's been reviewed everywhere. Like amazing. She lives in DC just like I do, and she had one of her book tours was at Sixth and I, which is like a really famous place here in DC. And this time around, it wasn't her interviewing people; it was people interviewing her. So New York was Don Lemon. Here in DC it was Lorene Powell Jobs. And, there's Reid Hoffman, a whole bunch of people, or Sam Altman, like a whole bunch of people are doing the book tour with her, which is really interesting. The one in DC was really, I don't know, it was really intimate and nice. And her ex-wife was there. Her current wife was there. Like, it was just really cool to see all these people in one place and then hear her perspective. She talked a lot about the book, her experiences. To me personally, Kara is like one of my North Stars. I have 2 North Stars, which are really interesting. 2 women that are my North Stars. They're both very different, but like if I can combine what both of them do in some way, like I will be a very happy woman. If I will die happy. So one of them is Kara Swisher, who's the journalist. Mm-hmm. She's an entrepreneur, very, very successful. I look up to her. We actually share the same agent from UTA. We're both represented by our same agent. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's like how I feel connected. And I said that to her when I saw her. I was like, oh my gosh, we have the same agent. So that was really cool. And then the other one's Amy Webb, who's an amazing futurist. So like if I could combine both of them into one person, that's who I would want to grow up to be. But it was really nice. I got to meet her. She signed one of my books and got to chat a little bit with her. Very interesting. She did say something interesting during her talk that I had read before, was that within like a couple of days, there were all these AI copycats of her book on Amazon being sold. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like Burn Book, A Tech Love Story. Mm-hmm. It was like Kara Swisher, like, and they had like AI generated images of her, like all this stuff that someone would think it might have been her book, or it could be a book related to it or something. So when she was on stage, she addressed that and she said, she called Amazon. She was like, what's going on? Like, this is not right. And of course, because it's Kara Swisher, they took some of those down. She mentioned Savannah Guthrie as well. She has a book about like God and identity and stuff like that. And someone created an AI workbook, and people are buying her book with a workbook, not realizing that it's not hers. Right. So that to me was super interesting. Her perspective, I mean, she's a tech person. She's been in the tech space forever. The fact that this is impacting her, like her book's still selling, super well, bestseller and everything. But the fact that it hits that close to me was, I don't know, just super interesting. So
it's going to be I think it'll be a continuing problem for Amazon specifically, because they've got such an easy, low barrier to like self-publication, which from all aspects I can tell is like from the majority of it is automated, to the point where, and honestly, you got to be kind of like a weird book nerd to know this, but like I'm a Stephen King fan. And last week someone had realized, this was on UK's version of Amazon, that there was a book that it looked exactly like Stephen King's upcoming short story, like collection of short stories called You Like It Darker. Mm-hmm. But the title, same cover, same title of the book, but at the top, instead of saying Stephen King, it said Stephen's King.
Oh, so sneaky.
And I think it's been like taken down, and it was like pretty quickly like, but I'm sure
they made some money, like whoever that person was.
Yeah, whatever. Well, whatever it was, it's not there anymore. It's long gone. But it was one of those things where it's like, oh, they're really it's some people are out there trying to figure out, and you're going to have that anytime where there's an automated system. People are going to try to figure out how to game it a little bit.
Even with my books, like there's a summary of Cathy Hackl, Dirk Luth, and Tommaso Di Bartolo's Navigating the Metaverse by Everest Media. Like, this is nothing I ever authorized. Like, no, like, yeah. Like, that's stuff like you. That's maddening to me. Like, that's...
I wonder if I have a book out on Amazon yet. And I just don't know it yet.
Just be prepared. When it comes, you're going to be all these copycats. AI. Well, it's like, it's like pink slime. It's just like this constant revolving of like crappy content that,
And this is part and parcel to the AI conversation as well, because like I'm starting to see it in comments, just on like
oh my gosh, on LinkedIn. It's to me it's just overwhelming.
Yeah. Anyone who utilizes Reddit understands what it means to see just like reposting bots who, for whatever reason, they're hyping up an account so they can use it for whatever reason later. I don't know. I think it's something that it is one of those things that I think a younger generation is becoming desensitized to, but it's like our generation is having a hard time still parsing the difference, which makes me feel kind of old because it's like when I saw, garbage pop up on Facebook, I didn't understand why the generation older than me was struggling with it because it seems so obvious. But now I'm kind of in that seat and going through the same thing. And it just keeps going and going.
Well, I'm seeing it on LinkedIn, and I actually read an article on like business media, like how to automate your responses on LinkedIn. And I'm like, no, using AI, right? And I was like, no, these are the worst. Like now, like I'm going to be honest, like I'm a super user on LinkedIn, right? I love LinkedIn. I post all the time. Now I'm like, every time I go in and I'm like, is this response generated by AI or is it generated by the actual person? And now I'm starting to be like, should I even reply? Like it's this weird thing. And I think people might have noticed that I'm not replying as much. I just, I feel a little like, I don't know.
Well, I've even seen like when they have started selling premium AI solutions as part of their premium package where it's like, would you like to rewrite this
with AI.
post with AI? And I'm like, well, doesn't that go against what I'm here to prove what my thoughts are? Like, it just seems so antithetical to what LinkedIn's one major selling point is, and that is showing the professional capabilities of the person behind the keyboard. If you replace all of their content with a premium status that can just write it in AI, well, one, I have a feeling it's all going to start looking the same for a little while. But two, then if I hire that person, aren't I going to be real disappointed when I find out like that person is, I don't know, an idiot?
Yeah, that's where I think, and this got me to thinking about that. Like, I think one of the big things in the future is going to be curation. One of the things that has worked for me, right? Because I have this WhatsApp channel with over 2,500 people. And I can't add anyone else, sadly. I need to talk to WhatsApp and Meta and see how I can, because lots of people want to join. But the big thing there, the value is the curation, because people are like, oh my gosh, you share news that I didn't expect, or you're instead of them going to hunt for the news, I can say, this is a really good read, or this is why you should read this, or this is why it's relevant, or hey, surprise, we're landing on the moon. So stuff like that. Like someone was like, I had no idea we were landing on the moon till you put that on your group. So I think curation from that perspective, curation is gonna be important. I think podcasts like this, where there's a conversation, a smart conversation by two humans that are smart. Right. At least it's me today, not my AI, about a relevant topic for that audience. Right. So yeah, I do think that there's still curation. There's, quality content, like things like that are still going to have a place. So.
Yeah, we're not at the dawn and age of max headroom at this point. Like people like that. We're not there yet. I don't think we're ever going to get there. I don't know. I just believe too much in people believing in people. And I'm willing to like die on that hill.
I'm still team human.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
I don't really care what the computer says.
Yeah. I love computers. I love spatial computing, but yeah, I'm team human. I do want, as a human, I want to engage with technology in more natural ways. And I think that is what spatial computing will bring to the market, to it. But
totally agree.
We'll see. I know we also wanted to talk a little bit about wearables and some of the rings and all the things that are happening, some of the news there.
I'm a big fan of the ring.
Would you wear it? Like what?
Yeah, totally. Yeah? Totally. I would.
Why? I have a hard time doing that. I have to be honest.
I don't wear a watch. I don't wear pins. I don't wear a necklace. I wear a wedding band. And I wear glasses. And I typically am wearing a hoodie. So if you can cram technology into one of those things, you're not disrupting my life. And yeah, I probably would replace a wedding band because it sounds weird to say, yeah, I would replace a wedding band with a wearable technology wedding band, but I probably would, right? Like, I don't.
Oh, and I think your wife would be totally down with that. She'd be like, "Yeah."
I honestly don't think she would. I don't think she would care.
Yeah.
Like, we're not big jewelry people. Like, and maybe if we're going out to dinner or something, but like by and large, it's not something that we ever really think about. I'm probably going to find out Wednesday after she hears this podcast. So
report back.
We'll see. But it's a practical solution for something that I think people naturally would wear. When I see pens like the Humane pen, I'm like, cool, I get where this is coming from, but I don't wear a pen. Like, that's just not typically what I would do. So I don't know. I'm more in line with the ring than probably anything else. Even more so than glasses, because I don't even wear glasses 24 hours a day.
Yeah. I don't either.
And, so if you can fit it into a ring and it's just doing standard biometrics, that would be great.
For me, it's got to be such a beautiful ring for me to put it on, to be honest. I wouldn't just wear a ring out of utility. Like, I mean, maybe I would. I don't know.
The ones that I'm seeing look pretty sleek, like they're fine, but they do look like a wedding band.
Yeah, like I need more like, I don't know. Like, I need a little more.
I agree with you. And I do want to see what they look like in person, because the thing that I always worry about is, does it look too big or too clunky? It's why I don't wear a smartwatch. The last smartwatch I owned was the Pebble Time Round, and it doesn't exist anymore. It hasn't existed for like a decade, because it was an actual thin wafer e-ink display and it looked like a watch. Everything else that I've seen in this, by and large, does include the Apple Watch, is they're just too thick, and they are these chunky discs on your wrist, and they don't look right.
I don't wear I don't wear an Apple Watch. Like, it's weird. Yeah. I wear AirPods though. I wear AirPods all the time. Not all the time, right? But when I'm like,
but that's a different thing.
But I feel like if they would do more with it, like I could definitely. Huawei had this like these AirPods that looked like earrings almost. They were really pretty. I was like, I could. It actually had like a big thing outside the Mobile World Congress Center. It said blah 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 fashion, and it had these like. I was like, oh, interesting. That looks fashionable. I don't know. It'll be interesting.
I would like to see more tech, like actual tech, biometric tech, go into shoes. There's just areas that we haven't fully tapped into yet, especially when it comes to like athletic wear, athletic shoes. The materials are getting super sci-fi, but we're not putting anything in them, and it just seems a little like.
Well, you're in Portland,
weird.
So go talk to Nike.
Oh, I know, and I keep hearing whispers, right? Like I literally live next to Adidas, like U.S. headquarters,
Adidas.
And Adidas,
yes.
and
for a European crowd, it's Adidas.
So like I hear the whispers, but we've just not seen it yet. It's just all about materials and light.
I mean, they're starting to do NFC chips, but that's obviously not what we're talking about. We're talking more about like sensors and
yeah.
So
we'll see. But I'd do the ring, for sure.
Okay, awesome. So before we go to Dispatch from the Fringe, there was a really interesting topic that you brought up. I think is really relevant, especially for anyone here listening who has kids or kids in their lives, or or teaches or anything like that, about some of the things that are happening with AI and teenagers. So do you want to share a little bit on the story?
No, I don't want. This is so scary. Like this, I feel like this is the type of story that's better like used for like the Halloween episode. It scares me so much.
Yeah.
I don't feel. Here's the thing. I don't feel qualified to have an opinion on this because I don't have kids. But I mean, effectively, there's this constant problem there recently at a school in Beverly Hills where there was a ton of bullying that occurred because other classmates were generating AI generated photos of classmates naked in the nude, not safe for work, suggestive, pornographic content. And even though I can barely remember high school myself, and I don't have kids or even like nieces and nephews who are in high school, I still panicked and was just like, what damage are we hurtling towards? And we're not having the right conversation.
Yeah.
So I sent that to you.
Yeah.
And was just like, I wasn't even sure we should talk about this subject.
Well, no, I think it's very relevant and it's a reality. Like that's one of the things where it's definitely a horrible use of the technology that can impact lives and impact children and lead to very negative outcomes. Right. Because even with my kids, like they're middle school, we're starting high school next year. But even in middle school, like they have all these classes, like their technology classes where they talk about, everything you do on the internet lives forever. Like, they know these things, right? They know like anything could be screenshot. Don't think it's going to disappear because anyone can take a screenshot, like all these sorts of things. They know these things. But when it comes to something like this, where it's not even them doing something,
it's out of their control.
Like it's out of control. Like they can't, and it can impact at a level, I think, from a psychological perspective, at a giant level, the amount of bullying and things. And like someone that doesn't they don't even create this, right? It wasn't even like,
they didn't do anything wrong.
They didn't do anything wrong, right?
All they did was
exist. Or if they misguided, like they didn't do anything. So, So yeah, I mean, I feel so uncomfortable with that. Like we've been very late at like giving our kids phones. Like my oldest, she's 13. She literally just got a phone. Like I'm that type of parent. Even though I work in technology, I'm like super like strict.
Sure, because
you
do work in technology.
I don't want them. The algorithm is like, no. So like they don't like. For example, my 13 doesn't even have social. She was just asking me, "Can I get Pinterest?" It's like, okay, let me think about it. I think I'm okay with that, but let me just double check, make sure, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like it made me think a lot about my daughters, even my son. I remember reading something about young boys on Snapchat being scammed, and stuff like that with, girls asking them, saying, "Hey, I'm so-and-so, send me a picture," and stuff. And then it wasn't them, and like all these sorts of things. And I worry.
And that's something you can like guide someone through, right? That's a teachable moment.
Yeah, it's like, don't send a picture, right?
Yeah, here's what you do and you don't do. But in this particular case, there's nothing you can do.
But then there's the angle of the fact that these images, if they have the face of that person, and that person's a minor, like it becomes a child porn issue, right? Which I think
I don't know if so like legally does it? I don't know.
I don't know. Like as a parent, like it's a sexual image of a child.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly.
Is the body of a child? I don't care. I don't know.
Right.
I guess maybe we should get a legal expert, because that's a big question mark, a very sensitive thing,
incredibly sensitive, terrifying.
And in that case, what is the responsibility of the companies that allow for this to be created and the platforms where these things are shared? Right.
Right. And so the problem that I've got on this particular soapbox is, now a lot of these AI companies are fighting to say, well, the ownership of like what the company outputs, really that legality should lie on the person who writes the prompt. And I'm like, no, it don't. No, like that's the
person
argument
that writes the prompt doesn't necessarily know what they're getting. I mean, they know the intention behind what they're writing, but
right. I mean, and this is more like along the lines of like the New York Times lawsuit with OpenAI. This isn't something as dark and as scary as what we were just talking about. But to me, that also proves that we're having the wrong argument. Like everyone is so worried about like the New York Times, their intellectual property, and I'm sitting here like, you want to win this argument, you got to go over here. And yeah, it's a deep and dark, scary hole, but this is the argument that you win. We'll get to this stuff, but it doesn't really matter. Not as comparative to
over here. Yeah, you're right. It's interesting because like in Kara Swisher's book, she talks about a lot of the things in tech and like unintended consequences.
Yeah.
Like tech always has those unintended consequences, right? And this is one of those where I'm like, if that is the future, that is a hellish future.
Yeah.
Like it's already bad with social and like stuff, like the things I hear, but adding that layer of AI and that layer of what,
I don't adhere to all of the fear mongering around AI, but this scares the crap out of me.
No, this is scary. Like I agree. This is the scary part. This is the dark part of it.
Yeah.
That should
I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
I do think we probably should go and find like a legal.
We should, I'm going to find someone. I know a couple people here in the DC area that are definitely in the AI space and thinking of the legalities of it and stuff, and try to get some answers, because and especially for anyone listening to this that has kids, Whether they're young, whether they're in high school or have kids in their family or what have you, or works in, in an education setting.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask some of my friends who are high school teachers, like what they're seeing. I'm gonna have a conversation with them. I've had tons of conversations with them about social, but TikTok and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But about this specifically, I think that this is something I'm going to ask them about if they're seeing anything happening.
And they may not yet be like, this is so new. And I mean, really, the first article I'd ever seen breach this topic publicly was last week with this high school in Beverly Hills. But
I do think the explosion of what happened to Taylor Swift then has definitely opened the door.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, look what I can do with this. And I can, ruin people's lives, literally.
Yeah.
So.
Fun conversation. Thanks, Cathy.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, what a way to end the podcast. Episode 21. Anyway, let's go now to Lily from Dispatch from the Fringe. She's going to talk about how Wi-Fi sensing became usable technology. So Lily, take it away.
Hello, Cathy and Lee. Welcome to this week's Dispatch from the Fringe. Today, I'm going to talk to you about Wi-Fi sensing technology. Now, Wi-Fi, it does pretty much all we need it to do, connect us to the internet. But what if it could do something more? Wi-Fi sensing technology interprets the physical properties of electromagnetic waves, however, not the encrypted data they carry. So in an article from MIT Technology Review, it's the idea that the same routers in your house that bring you the internet could also detect your movements. Quote, thanks to better algorithms and more standardized chip designs, it could be invisibly monitoring your day-to-day movements for all sorts of surprising and sometimes alarming purposes. So Wi-Fi sensing technology, because of the different wavelengths it has and how big they are and how far they travel, can track your breathing, monitor your falls, and it could even make buildings smarter by knowing where the people are. Of course, think of all the nefarious ways that someone might use this technology. However, to work, Wi-Fi sensing needs to look at how waves from multiple devices interact. And that's something that's still a wait and see in our homes. Smart light bulbs, our routers, our other internet-connected devices could eventually work together to see where people are and how they're doing. One company, Origin Wi-Fi, is looking to do just that, specifically for elder care or people who live by themselves who might need someone to check in on them from time to time. So Origin Wi-Fi looks to use Wi-Fi sensing to transform smart homes into intelligent home ecosystems. It's not just about the internet anymore for internet service providers. It's about enhancing security, health, and home safety, according to Origin Wi-Fi's website. So what do you think? Do you want your router to be able to sense where you are and your family members in your home? That's something that could happen. So thanks for tuning in to this week's Dispatch from the Fringe.
All right, well, that was really interesting, Lee. You know, Lily always has the fun stuff. She has such a fun job. I want her job.
She does. I love that story so much because it invokes like how we can manipulate technology in like ways that we weren't thinking of. And it kind of makes me think the Matrix is real, right? Like it just kind of was like, maybe all this Wi-Fi is just seeing like the code of the Matrix and that's how they're tracking. You know, it kind of, it strikes the science fiction part of my brain when I read that stuff. It's like, oh, that's really cool.
Quick question. Are you Star Wars or Star Trek?
Oh, Lord. I'm Back to the Future.
You know what? I am Back to the Future too, now that I think about it.
Yeah,
because someone was asking me that the other day. It's like, I grew up more around Star Wars because my brother was a huge Star Wars fan, but I aligned more with like the idea and the concepts in Star Trek. But I never really watched that much Star Trek. But I'm definitely a Back to the Future person. So there you go.
I think there's category. The third. I think if I had to pick, I'm probably Star Trek Next Generation. That was definitely
I'm much more aligned with that vision, like, and I've seen episodes and like the technology and stuff. More so than Star Wars. I grew up more around Star Wars because, like I said, my brother was a huge fan. He's still a huge fan. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I'm
my kids did ask me. They
Star
said,
Trek.
"Did Dune come before Star Wars?" And I said, "Actually, yes, Dune did come before Star Wars." Because they were like, "This reminds me of Star Wars." I was like, "Well, let me tell you a story." So,
Yeah. Long
time
ago in a galaxy far
away. All right. On that note, thanks everyone for joining us for TechMagic. Come for the tech, stay for the magic. We'll hope you join us next week. Thank you, Lee.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them. That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Quick question. When was the last time a display ad changed your mind? Now think about the last time a friend told you about something they loved. Different feeling, right? That's how podcast advertising works. A host who's built real trust with their audience talks about your brand in their own words, in their own voice. It doesn't interrupt the experience. It's part of it. With Acast, you can access the world's largest podcast marketplace. Choose the right shows, the right audiences, the right format. Then watch the data tell you it worked. You're not buying impressions. You're buying influence. Learn more by visiting acast.com/advertise.